Welcome to Alanis Business Academy. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the weighted mean. If you haven't done so already, you may want to watch episode 6 titled Population and Sample Means. In that lesson, I introduce the arithmetic mean, which of course we're going to build upon in this lesson. The weighted mean is actually a special type of arithmetic mean and is commonly used when a dataset contains several identical values. First, let me put together a dataset. Say we are attempting to determine the mean or average number of correct responses for a sample of students on an exam. Since our dataset represents a sample, we would solve for x bar by adding all of the values together and dividing by the number of values in the sample. If you'd like to pause this lesson and perform the calculation yourself, go ahead and do that now. Upon doing so, you should receive a value of 280. Next, we divide that figure by the number of values in our population, which is 16. Again, feel free and pause this lesson if you'd like to compute the population mean on your own. Dividing 280 by 16, we should receive a sample mean of 17.5, which again represents the average number of correct responses for our exam. Now, we haven't done anything new at this point, but the purpose of going through this basic calculation is to show you how the process differs when using the weighted mean method. First, let me provide an equation for calculating the weighted mean. That equation is x bar sub w equals sigma wx divided by sigma w. This might be a little confusing, so I'm going to briefly explain the variables that we have here. X bar sub w should look a little familiar since x bar refers to a basic sample mean, like what we calculated above. The sub w represents weighted, so we know that we're solving for the weighted sample mean. Another variable that should appear familiar is sigma, which if you recall from our last lesson is the sum of. The little w represents the weight or frequency of a particular value, while the x represents the values in the dataset. Lastly, sigma w represents the sum of those weights that were used above. If this still seems a bit confusing, trust me, it will make a lot more sense once we solve this problem. We've already listed our values in order from smallest to largest, so what we're going to do is consolidate those values that are represented more than once. Prior to summing the values as instructed by sigma, I'm going to list each weight and the value it corresponds to ensure accuracy. 15 is only reflected once, so there's no change here, but we're still going to list it as a weight of 1 with an x of 15. This will make a little more sense in a few minutes. Next, you'll see that we have more than 116 in our dataset. We have exactly 4 values of 16. Instead of listing them all like we did above, we're going to list our weight, which is 4, and then the value 16 in parentheses. Feel free to pause this lesson and perform the same task for the remaining groups. Moving on, we have 3 17s, 4 18s, 2 19s, and 2 20 values. Our next task is to list the weights individually, which are 1, 4, 3, 4, 2, and 2. Our next step is to summarize or add up each of our values listed in the numerator and denominator portion of the equation. For our numerator, we have 280, which is exactly what we received when calculating the regular sample mean. And for the denominator, we have 16, which again is consistent with our sample mean calculation. The last step is to divide our numerator by our denominator, which gives us a weighted sample mean of 17.5. This figure is identical to the one we received minutes earlier when solving for the sample mean, and it should be. Depending upon the way the information is presented, it may make more sense to calculate the weighted mean as opposed to a sample or population mean as in our last lesson. Thank you for watching this lesson on the weighted mean. In our next lesson, we're going to learn about another measure of central tendency, the median. If you want to learn more about statistics as well as other subjects, then subscribe to our channel and visit us on Curious for distraction-free learning complete with exclusive content as well as quizzes to test your knowledge. Also, check out the Alanis Business Academy podcast, which you can find on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and alanisbusinessacademy.com. Thanks for watching.